Okay, so my phone died because it got so hot in the sauna. I had to go outside and wait for it to cool down. But anyway, I shared last night at church and just said about, how this year really brought me closer to God because at the end of 2019, I was just so burnt out from ministry and, just so many things going on that I just wanted to give up. I was like, I'm just done. I'm done with dealing with all this stuff. And I mean, it's a long story. I can't talk about it here before my phone passes out. Or I do. But anyway, Revelation is chapter 3. It says a few things. God can blot your name out of the book of life because he says it in that chapter. He's like, if you do these things, I won't blot your name out. So that tells me that he wrote it, or the angels wrote it, somebody wrote it, but it can be removed. So that's the first big pointer. The other big pointer is that just like I'm sitting in a sauna, it makes you hot physically, but you have to be hot spiritually. And to me, what that does is very similar to, the Bible talks about in Hebrews, the things that are unseen happen before the seen. So everything we see in the physical world is just a mirror reflection of the spirit. And when you're hot in the physical, in your flesh, when you're hot, like I'm sitting here in a sauna, even my phone died, couldn't handle the heat. You're sweaty, you smell, you breathe heavy, you have more breath coming out of you. You can't do much. Like, there's a sign here in the sauna that says, do not exercise in the sauna. Like, you can't do much. And to me, if you flip that to the spiritual side, you have to be so on fire for God, especially now, that the end draws nigh. Like, you have to be so on fire for God, so hungry for God that your breath is labored. You spiritually speaking, you just can't do anything in your own strength. It's like you wake up in the morning and you just can't get out of bed without talking to Jesus, without thinking about him, without singing to him, without a song on your heart. It's like, I'm just so in love with you. I can't move. I just can't do this without you. That's on fire. That's hot for Jesus, to where, how the Bible, Jesus talks about how if you look at a woman or a man with lust in your heart, you've already committed adultery. You've already had the affair. If you speak ill of someone, you've committed homicide. You've committed murder. So it's like God is looking not at the outside. He's looking at your mind. He's looking at how hot you are spiritually. Are you thinking about God? Are you meditating about God throughout the day? Is he an intimate friend? Is he somebody that you speak to all the time? And I told the church last night, I was like, my spiritual walk, my relationship with God was hanging on a thread because I just wanted to give up. I was just so tired of ministry, and I was honestly tired of dealing with people. I didn't know, nobody knew the pandemic was coming, but it caused me to switch churches and go back to, I was at a mega church, but I wasn't growing, closer to God. And I don't blame that on the church. I blame it on not being in God's will. You have to be in God's will. And God's will is that you spend time with him. So I ended up going back to World Harvest, and that change created such a fire for God in my life, just being at that church. And at the beginning of the year, God told me, he was like, if you put my house first, I'll put your house first. Not your ministry, because I had made an idol out of ministry on who's going to invite me. And the only times I would prepare or read the Bible or spend time in worship was preparing for a service. So in my mind, I believed that